Hi. I assume. Hello? There you go. Hi, I'm Seamless. And today is Wednesday, which means it's time for a new viewer track review video. And today we're going to start us off with Damage Amplifier by Fjaru. Fjaru. I can't physically make my face make the sound I want to make with those three letters in combination. Well, it's called Damage Amplifier. Let's see what it feels like. Well, all right. That was awesome. Oh man, I like that the Doom style is a thing that's coming. That's becoming a thing. Like The style of it is existing, yeah, sure, has existed in other styles of metal and bands that have been doing stuff for kind of a long time, but this exact combination of stuff is great. But this song suffered quite a bit from not having the greatest snare presence or like splashy high frequency metal impact ever. And by ever, I mean almost none at all, in comparison to how dope the bass stuff sounded. Like the low end mix on this track is excessive, and in the best way. Like that just feels so good, and like it's not even about like a transfer of power thing. I normally get on a case about it, about the actual, like when the quote unquote drop happens. Like this part is also great. Like the toms feel right, and the compression is a little up there a bit, Thomas, but I can feel you keeping it. I feel where the range of stuff that you want this to work in is, and then, you know, I know what the problems are like when you try to like, you had some sick grooves in here. There's another one. In some elements of these lower moments, those moments where the snare actually kind of worked out the way that it feels, but that's like the only time that it actually works with the elements. These are all excellent grooves and kick-ass riffs, and the snare is just not living up to it. It gets lost completely, and it sounds too much like a bit of a fakey doofy thing. Like, we're not trying to be terribly realistic and making something that sounds like this, but like there's a kind of real woody metal crack that comes out of a snare, and with cymbals that are getting hit with it, that is basically the top end of the frequency you're missing. The impact is there. I can see and feel the presence of it hit, and also your low end is compensating for anything. But the thing that you're missing is that like 500 plus frequency range of that like kit experience, because right now we have most of the kit experience with the drum, with the guitar and the bass guitar. That all sounds like a metal band. Now we're missing the part of the metal band that bring it all together on the high end, which is the piece of the drums that do that. But it obviously doesn't sound as cool on the low end, so that's, you do that half and half game, like layer in some more of the fake drums that are more realistic sounding on the high frequencies. That would help a bit on the presence front. Your compression instincts are correct, but I see you having the bit of the problem about trying to suffer all that energy in there without it actually being an issue. I guess just keep working on it though, because like I think like separate the stuff more and high pass more of your stuff, and you'll find that you can mandate more of a texture of a thing in a thing when it doesn't have power that conflicts with how weighty and nice your low end sounds. Whatever it is you're doing down there, you want to keep doing. It's just everything on top of it is not as awesome. Like it just is not as great as it is. Because this is super good down there, man. The track in general is super great. All right, moving on. We have Crash 358 with Moonshot, and labeled even, sort of. Yeah, bam. So I like this kind of clangy Foley stuff way better than like the squishy watery stuff. Like, and it has almost the same impact as the watery stuff, but it doesn't get me the way the water does. I really think it's just because of the squishy feel that is 100% about there being like a pre-hit. Like, there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of a soft touch in these things, but because they're so sharply on, even though they're still doing the job of that Foley stuff, you know, like, it's not as in my ears in the way that bugs me. It's there in a way that actually accentuates. I don't know. I don't have no idea if that's really what it's about, or if this is just that different that it doesn't bug me in that way, or if it's just about the water. Maybe I don't like the water. Who knows? Either way, I like the texture. I like the dopeness. I also like how well mixed this is. It's clipping a lot. Maybe don't do that so much, but the, like, how present and tonally relevant everything is excellent without going too far. And especially normally with this sort of clangy, this targeted area of higher frequency, it's easy to go too far. It's easy for it to be too loud and just to be too much, especially with how loud this other stuff is. Normally you gotta compensate in that way, but this is just so fit. Like that, there's bass power in there that I can feel, which normally would mean it's way too much, but it's exactly too much as how much everything else is, which means that if I turn this down to feel right, everything else will feel right too. Like that's the real power of if you win the loudness war. Like, we talk about how bad it is to lose dynamic range, but the reason why it's bad is because it makes it harder to individually perceive all the elements in the song. But if we just do a good enough job to make the elements in the song be perceived correctly in a thinner dynamic range, it's technically just as viable. And when people compare like the music that is the exemplar detail of when dynamic range is done right, it's scarcely things that do more than what this track is doing instrumentally. So if we can get more things happening than can normally happen in a track that's more dynamic, but you can hear individually, you literally can't hear all of it, and it's not detracting from itself, then it's better. It did the job better. Like this, the bits in the middle of the kick and the snare hits are as smooth and flowing as a Philip Glass track. You can hear all the individual echoing bits and copied and counterpointy RB stuff. You can hear it, and the hits come in and hit it and push it away for just the right amount of time. It's just the right speed. It's not too fast. It doesn't break it. It's not too slow. It's not out of time. And the hits are hit. Like, they're not turned off and suffered because they don't want to go too far to damage all the stuff. They went all the way to be all the way. This is a very impressive track. Like, this, you wouldn't think I'd be so impressed with something that's not being like all loud and bassy or whatever, but it's actually kind of easy to do that stuff. The hard thing is making the bass like talk in a way that's interesting and clever, but to actually mix it down is not the hard thing. To mix this stuff down is the hard thing, because then you got to do it in a way that actually treats it and can keep it in a way that doesn't break it, and the balance is hard. And this is one example of it done pretty freaking great, except for the clipping. Clip less. Oversample your processing on your mastering to get it to do the job better. But other than that, good job. Very, very impressed with that mix. Coming up next, we have A New Challenger. Literally, the track is called A New Challenger, and it's by The Twisted. All right. That was an ending, I guess. I guess I mean, damn. I'm not totally sure about how I would do that either. This is a good example of sort of what we were just talking about like a mix that's like this for the loud stuff, for loud bassy stuff. Like this is a good. Most of the stuff was all like you could tell it was all happening, and you can hear all it was, and it wasn't like a billion things on each other all hiding the stuff, which sometimes happens when you push things as hard. I would say though that this particular area of the snare, this little bit of a wah on it, is just a little bit too high on the right there, like the 2.5K 4K area. Like it's a lot, and it's a little. What's funny is that I was just getting like, oh, this is a little overpowering until the lead came in, and like that's some sharp stuff, and then the balance in the snare made sense because it probably sounded too dark when it was lower than that, and because it balanced out against how loud this thing was. I would have brought something down other than doing that. Like I would have, when maybe sidechain one of these background elements in this particular frequency spectrum, like frequency area when it came in. That's what I used to do for guitar solos when I mixed metal stuff. But the groove on this was good, and the bounce was nice. The mix hit, like this was nice. This is a good time. Good job with this. Crash 358. Yes, cool. Next up, we have Megats 21. Come and wake me up. Okay, let's see what you're about. Cool. All right, cool. So, good news and bad news. Good news. Good news is every single part and step of what you did was right. Every single one. Every choice of what kind of sound, where to put it, how long, how much of it to put, how many other kinds of things. There could have been more variations on stuff. You could have had a different main sound, but the kinds of things you chose, where you put them, and through which you chose to process it into what and how hard, and all of that was 100% correct. The bad news is exactly how you did every single one of those things added up to not being great. In particular, how well, like I'm mentioning the steps are correct because essentially what you missed is how hard you went. Like the sidechaining, yes. How long the sidechain was, no. It needed to be a bit longer. It needed to be deeper. The drums need to hit it and blow it away a little farther. And then they also like need to be louder than everything else enough that when you push them into the limiter and the master, that it's pulled up a lot, and that's why a certain kind of togetherness forms. But as a result of that, though, it'll have a big primary issue, which is that you either have to distort it harder or compress it faster, or do a whole bunch of stuff to time your compression right. That's the bit of it, and along with certain things like how much power you gave certain instruments. Like a lot of the pianos didn't need to have that much energy that low. It kind of feels cool when they blow stuff away a certain way, but you can still have that particular effect without having that much energy in that low area. And one of those ways you're going to get it is through this hilarious stuff we're discussing, which is mostly that you do everything you did, just increase it, push it harder, gain it harder, make it up more. Like the difference between the previous track and this track is mostly the choices and how hard you went. Like you still did all the same and right stuff. You just didn't go as you were too careful. A lot of the desire to be careful and the advice that's from a lot of older production is stemming from trying not to damage like another instrumentalist's work. And that's not really what we're doing when we do this stuff. We're actually trying to damage things because the damage is what sounds cool, at least in my opinion. It still sounded cool, and like again, the music was fine, if not terribly original. Like the arrangement was also great. Like it's nothing about this was so far wrong about it. It's just that it was all so not on. Like the compression timing, you could feel the warble. It wasn't really all that loud. Like the timing on the drums, like you can hear the drums and they were there and like they were on to stuff. Like it was well mixed. It's just that it wasn't a very fun mix. Anyway, I hope that helped. Anywho, moving on, we have Meakashi with Rain. And that's weird. This is a wave file. And yet it looks like that. Which is typically what? So did you render a wave file and then save it as an MP3 file and save it as a wave file? This does say a wave. Oh, it's named wave, but it's not. Oh, it's a wave file. It's a really small one though. Like it's probably how big this would be if this were an MP3. Whatever, let's hear it. Yet more land was won for the loudness wars. So this track is another one of those tracks where I could just pick a frequency range and say it was too much. But by how much too much it was, were I to turn it down that it would be enough, so too would everything else still be enough, because everything was the same kind of too much. Like, that much was how this track went. Anyway, I liked a lot of the sounds. This main thing later was not the one of them, really. Like, it filled the space and it was really loud, and the rhythm was fine, but like, it just wasn't as interesting as a lot of the other sounds that were happening. All the other sounds were very interesting. Like, this was kind of neat. I dug a lot of it, and I also wanted to point out how light sounded the lead was here, you guys. Check this out. I'm pointing it out because while you can barely feel it, you know it's there, and it's very clear. You hear everything it's doing. It's doing some stuff. It's sort of vibrating. It's kind of moving, and the amount of level that it actually has leveled in the mix in this is probably nothing in comparison to the rest of what's happening, which is like a point I make a lot, that higher frequency stuff does not need as much power to sound at par with lower frequency things. And that means that you can have a lot of stuff going on in a particular range without necessarily overpowering other things, because they don't have that much actual literal level. Of course, when you're compressing stuff, it's all going to be up there anyway, because you notice that there is also some activity up in there. Part of the actual main modulation of the sound right there is right up there where that little register is. It's probably even part of the sound. And it's not really terribly interfering with each other. And then later, when there's just like cacophonic lead activity up here, it's not that bad. In fact, now it feels like big and busy, but not in a kind of like overpowering way. And that's just what you can do with high frequency stuff. If there is no low power to impart on the lower things, and that's why we high pass. That's why we high pass. Cool. Very cool. Good job, Meakashi. Really gonna learn how to pronounce things one day. Up next, we have Oasis remastered by CamaCon, one of our mods in the Discord. All right, let's see what you got. Let's see what you got from the beginning. Okay, so I told you all that stuff about the water effects. I told you. It bugged me. It bugged me so much. Oh, God. And then the ending was just it all by itself. Oh, God. Thankfully, in the main bits, when it was in there, it was like rhythmically relevant, and it didn't actually over squishify things. It's just in between. Do you see how it's like literally right in between the rhythmic like location of the main things? I think that's part of what wrecks it for me. Oh, it triggers. It's triggering. It's not objective. I'm not making an objective claim about it being good or bad, because I understand this to be something that's quite a bit of a personal problem for me. It just wrecks my, like, feelings. It's really weird, but this main bits, the song is great. Like, the production is excellent. The mixing is excellent. The sound design is excellent. Like, the application of the elements are all excellent. You're doing it all exactly as you should and delivering incredibly well done stuff. Like, this is what I'm talking about good sound design, rather, about good sidechaining. That's the word I just tried to say. You can see it happen, like, when the things hit and there's, like, room for it to exist. This is why you're able to have extremely loud stuff next to extremely loud stuff and have it still sound dynamic. Now, wasn't that interesting? It kind of fit right in there. Like this stuff, good stuff. Like, excellent, good timing, excellent grooves. Felt funky, and I'm sure literally everyone else in the world thought the water Foley stuff was amazing and on point and made it all very pretty and like crystalline. It just felt like a dog licking my face. All right, moving on. We have next Nonchalance by Cowbless with the size. Okay, here we go. kind of fun to see the spectral reality of that distortion in action there. So this was interesting. Did you mean for this section not to have any sub? Because this section had kind of sub. Right? So what's weird is this is one of these songs where like the only way I'm gonna make a good or bad like statement is based on what this could be used for, and or what this was meant for. And I say that because what this sounds like is like a TV show's idea of dance music. In particular, it sounds a bit Adventure Timing. It's got that kind of whole side of music texture to it, the midnight gospel-y kind of experience. And it's also mixed as though it's to be in those shows and not necessarily to be listened to by itself until some moments happen, but then they don't have sub, and that got weird. At least, I don't know, again, what the intention was, because it could totally be in one of those shows. Like, it actually would be a totally dope, like, rad soundtrack to something, like Infinity Train style stuff, you know what I mean? But, like, it depends on your goals, because that also could, you might have been trying to make something that could compete on, like, the Ultra Dance Floor. I don't know. Either way, though, good, like, the progression feels kind of random, but it's not totally random. It has one of the qualities of the style of music that I just mentioned is a bit that it just kind of goes places. And this definitely just goes places, but none of the places they go to are bad. It's not like the tempo doesn't change up too much. The key isn't radically all over the place. Like, we're not going to different time signatures. We're not doing whole different genres and styles and stuff. Like, it's the differences are within what feels like what could be a world, which is, I guess, how that stuff kind of works. And that, well, decent job is decent. Good job, everybody. If you'd like to have one of your tracks featured in one of these videos, head on over to the Discord, which is linked in the description of this video. There is a submissions channel, there's instructions on what to do, and people to help you do it. It's all kinds of good stuff. Like CamaCon, who was featured in today's video, who is a moderator inside the Discord. Come hang out and stuff. I assure you, we are friendly. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.